All right, happy Saturday afternoon, everybody. And indeed, it is a happy Saturday afternoon if you're a Texas Tech fan. Welcome to the Rewind. Red Raiders winning 52-15, closing out the regular season in style against West Virginia. We recap it all with you today, whether you're on Twitter X, whether you're on our YouTube channel or our Facebook Live channel. They're on Facebook. We're glad to have you along. All the communications brought to you by United Supermarkets and Market Street, which again, post-Thanksgiving shopping made easy. And if you're kind of tired of leftovers, you can still hit Market Street today and get some of their ready-made meals. You don't have to do a whole lot of cooking if you don't want to, thanks to Market Street. We'll get your thoughts, your comments, what you liked, everything else. We can put the season into perspective now, the regular season, just a little bit. And a wild day in college football, if you saw what happened after the Michigan upset of Ohio State. And is it really an upset if Ryan Day loses to Michigan and Michigan beats Ohio State? Massive brawl breaks out. Cops are involved, pepper spray. It's just another day in college football. So that's what we got going. Let's get it going in 3, in 2. Good afternoon, West Texans, all you good, fine, friendly folks out there who wish you were. I'm Ryan Hyatt, TheRaiderland.com, where you start your day. And this is Raiderland Rewind. We're coming to you from the Arctic Air Studios. If the air gets too Arctic here in the next few weeks or so for you, you need to call the Bear. Tech wins it, overwhelming the Mountaineers, manhandling the Mountaineers 52-15, the most complete game of the year. A little bit of a slow start, and by that we really mean it just slowed down in the red zone. Tech left a lot of meat on the bone in the first quarter there, but it's a 6-3 start to the game for both teams, and then it's all Texas Tech after that. It's anything Tech wanted to do. It's Baron Morton, 20 of 28 at one point. It's Taj Brooks running wild. The future, Williams there in the backfield, looking good. You saw Will Hammond get a touchdown late. Maybe the future at quarterback. How soon, we don't know. And then the defense was as good against a good team, really, I think, as we've seen them start to finish. They, so you give up a couple of late touches, whatever. I'm not going to worry about anything basically that happened after halftime. They were getting pressure there on Green, the West Virginia quarterback. They were getting that timely interception right before the half that Texas Tech cashed in and just, making plays. So you saw the best of Texas Tech today in the final game of the regular season. Now a chance to win 9 games for the first time in a long time. Now 8 games in the regular season, first time they've done that since 2009, obviously. Last year, Mike Leach. And, you hadn't had a whole lot of 9-win seasons, just period, end of sentence around Texas Tech. So the bar incrementally being raised. We'll get your thoughts, what impressed you the most today as we go through. Get your comments in. S. Carter McKenzie, one of the best performances by Texas Tech in years. Still got play calling issues in the red zone. D looked great when they went with the aggressive calls. West Virginia looked terrible, but have to wonder, what if? What if? What if what? What if? Oh, maybe this is the part of the what if. That second quarter frenzy was Leach era-esque. It really was. You overwhelmed them. The red zone, I still think sometimes Zach Kidley gets into the red zone. He's got too many toys to play with, and it makes it a little harder on himself than it needs to be. Hard to argue when you hang a half 100, you got your 50 burger, James wants to know, do you see both coordinators returning next year? I believe both coordinators will be back unless they decide to leave to take a job elsewhere on their own volition. But I have no reason to believe at this time that Joey McGuire wants to move on from Zach Kittley or Tim DeRuyter. So unless Zach Kittley finds himself a head coaching job somewhere and wants to take that, kind of take the old Eric Morris approach maybe and parlay some success and go find you a smaller school and be a head coach if that's the direction he wants to go. Who knows if there'll be some offers out there for him. But I really think what we're going to see is year 4 of Joey McGuire have the most stability we've seen. And I was going to visit with Don Williams about this weekend, and I hadn't had a chance to do it. And I'm not even just maybe talking Texas Tech, just in general college football. How many programs have had same head coach, offensive coordinator, defensive coordinator combination for 4 years running? That's really unusual in college football because usually either, it's really good and people are moving on or they're making changes. So I expect both to be back unless one or the other decides to move on their own. Peyton says it was a great game. It was a fantastic way to end the season. If you're going to play your best game, play it at the end of the season, and then you go into the bowl game, and everybody be happy, happy, happy. And we'll get to some of the individual stuff as we go through. But yeah, this is when you want to play your best game. And it's hard to not say after watching Joey McGuire for 3 years as a college head coach that he doesn't get teams better by the end of the season. The record in November, much talked about. What was it? Somebody said during the Toyota-thon, like McGuire's 7-1 or something. I don't know if that's updated or not, But you can't say that his teams don't tend to improve and play some of their best football as the season goes on. CJ, totally good effort from Texas Tech on all sides of the ball. Yes, all three sides. If they brought like that weekly, they'd be undefeated. They'd be 12-0. Charlie, sign of the day at game day, Maverick McIver for Heisman. Here's to the pride of San Angelo, wherever he may be today. Let's see. We go from Facebook. We got a lot of Facebook, YouTube in. Have we got any Twitter in? Where's my Twitter people? You guys need to chime in your questions, thoughts, comments on the 52-15 walloping of West Virginia. Another beatdown of Neil Brown. Gary, the way the season started, 8-4 was only a pipe dream. Ifs and buts. You don't fumble at TCU and win. Are you eligible for the Big 12 title game? You would have a shot. Definitely, if that game goes different, if Morton doesn't get hurt, if you don't have that fumble late with Will Hammond and still, the scratching your head, what exactly are you trying to do here? Last possession, kicking a field goal or setting order, what are you doing here? If that doesn't happen, if you win that game, of course you can come back and say, if you win Baylor, they're always in. But yeah. But you were right there. And Joey McGuire addressed that straight up Monday at his weekly press conference, talking about how one of the frustrations of this season is looking around at the end and seeing teams like Arizona State out there with a chance to play in the Big 12 title game and go to Arlington and, some other teams. I think it's also interesting that at the beginning of the season, people are looking at the Tech schedule going, hey, man, look, you're missing all the tough teams. At the end of the year, you look back and you go, you know what? You wish you could have, you might have wished you could have played some of the teams that you didn't, the so-called tough teams, that it turns out, and you beat an Arizona State, but it turns out you catch a Colorado that's really good. You catch some better teams than maybe what you thought. Maybe what you were thinking. Easy for me to say. Get your questions, comments in, YouTube, Twitter, or Facebook Live, wherever you may be watching. You can share with a friend. We will recap the game, which really was over by halftime, but a lot of good stuff to it in between. Chris, portal opens on Monday. The second season begins. Yeah. And you are re-recruiting your roster and you are reallocating your NIL funds. And you are doing all of that in real time as the season is coming to an end. And now, as you get ready for whatever bowl game you go to, that will be the challenge. That and the not the early signing day, but the signing day. And you go from there. But everybody in the same boat. It's not like Texas Tech's the only team that's got to do it. Everybody in the same boat in college football right now when it comes to that. Kyle is jumping in on our YouTube channel. We love our YouTube people. By the way, if you're on Facebook Live or Twitter, go subscribe to our YouTube channel, Ryan Hyatt's Raiderland. Everybody watching on YouTube, give us a thumbs up if you can and a share. It really helps out and makes my wife feel better for me sitting around here and talking to you guys all afternoon. For me, says Kyle, it's a pretty good season. Desperately needed this one. I feel like 8-4 in the Big 12 now without UT or OU is like 7-5 before. I just think 8-4 should be our baseline in the new Big 12. I think it's hard for me to sit there and go, okay, that should be the baseline. I know what you're saying. I mean, like the minimum acceptable standard is bowl eligibility, and even that doesn't mean anything. So I would say, then you go 7-5. So I think that's your baseline, that you're never flirting with that, not being bowl eligible, not being that. Now, when we get into, and I think, Kyle, you may be guilty of watching too much ESPN and saying that 8-4 has got to be the baseline because, without OU and Texas, well, OU wasn't that good this year. Oh, wait, who did they? Well, OU wasn't that good this year. Texas won exactly one of the last 14 Big 12 championships. So let's give the Big 12 a little bit more credit and say you just roll out of bed and go win 9 or 10 games in this league. That's not true. This is a league of well-balanced, good teams, top to bottom, more so than the Big 10 and the SEC, in my opinion. That they've got bottom dwellers that are really, really bad. The Big 12 bottom dwellers really aren't that bad as we've seen this year. And you must be able to handicap in real time. The only thing that doesn't matter what happened 2 years ago, 10 years ago, or 2 years from now. It only matters what's now. And the ability to look at football teams and say, these are good football teams. These are competitive, good football teams. You know, Georgia goes 8 overtimes to beat one of the mid-level teams of the ACC. We can do the comparison all we want on this stuff. But I would caution and say, just because the T-shirt team is out of the league and the Sooners are out of the league, that suddenly you just roll out and win 9 games. That's not going to be the case. That's just not factual. All right, so you guys know most of the stats by now, but it was total domination by Texas Tech. 569 total yards. Morton goes 28 of 41, 359, 2 TDs, and that 1 pick. Brooks 188 on the ground, an 8.2-yard average, 37 yards, longest one. He had that beautiful. Was it a 37-yarder for the touchdown? That it was a James Gray tribute run. We'll get back to him in a minute. Josh Kelly ended up over 1,000 yards receiving for the year. And he goes for 9 for 150. Conyers with a juggling catch. Mason Tharp should have had 2 touchdowns instead of 1. Boy, early on that review, you're like going. Now everybody knows that Don Williams had the great story in the AJ yesterday about Kirby Hocutt firing off the email with the Big 12 and the officiating in the league being unacceptable after the Colorado game. And after that first touchdown, and it was a touchdown, wasn't overturned, I'm like, yeah, that's the Big 12 just telling you, hey, thanks for the email. We really don't care. And after a while, it wasn't going to matter. So a couple of more. No, when you get a blowout like this, and we're griping about the red zone, touchdowns not getting touchdowns settling for field goals. You were still 7 of 7 in the red zone. That's pretty good. You recorded 4 sacks on the day on the defensive side. Give me advanced stats real quick. We'll get back to your comments in a moment. Your medium passing was your bread and butter today, 14 of 20. You were 13 of 19 short. That's 5 or less. 14 of 25 to 14, and you only had 3 chunks downfield over 15, 1 of 3 on that. Your nullified big plays, you didn't have anything. Third down really didn't matter because what you were doing on first down. Let's look at first down efficiency, all right? This is just nutty. So Texas Tech with 39 first down plays recorded 299 yards, 7.7 average gain on first down. You rushed it on first down 16 times for 97, that's 6.1. You threw it 15 of 23, 202. You made 10 first downs on first down. West Virginia got some late when you got the cushion. Their numbers look a little bit better, but Texas was done during the early portion of the proceedings. All right, we go back to your comments and questions here on the Rewind. Jan is on Facebook. Not only did Tech play a great game, the weather was beautiful, a great day in the 806. Congrats to Taj. A little bit chilly there to start the day. Ryan, the lows of this season were very low, but happy for the progress being made overall. And that's one of the things we're going to talk about, not just on this show, but next week and going forward, getting ready for that bowl game. And McGuire has been very open about trying to push the narrative, and rightfully so, that maybe some fans forget what you hadn't done here lately, and you still got a chance to do something you don't do a whole lot. That there was still a lot out there for this team going back 2 weeks ago, that they could get to 8 wins in the regular season, that they could get 9 with a bowl game victory, and that a lot of that stuff hadn't happened 15, 20 type year. Okay, yeah. I mean, I said 2 weeks ago questions would be asked and questions would be answered at the end of the regular season. And everybody, not everybody, a lot of fans, it's human nature. In the midst of everything, you want definitive answers right now. And it was impossible to give definitive answers. I can definitively tell you that Texas Tech football is better off today than they were when they hired Joey McGuire, that the program has been elevated, that it is moving forward by any metric, and it's done so steadily at a pace that if you go back and look at the coaching careers in Texas Tech history in the first 3 years, Joey McGuire's record stacks up very nicely. Thank you. In conference play and overall play and in everything else. So we can definitively say that it is moving in absolutely the right direction. Back on Twitter X, jumping in thanks to United Supermarkets. S. Reyes, this is the most complete game I've seen him play this year. I agree. Start to finish, like I said, you left a little meat on the bone, kicked the field goals. And the defense, held them to a field goal, and then nothing else after the first half. Nothing mattered points-wise in the second half. The pressure that the defense applied. I mean, Texas Tech looked like a physically dominant team against another bowl-eligible team. We hate the term. It doesn't mean anything. But it wasn't like you were physically dominating North Texas or ACU or something. No, you took a Big 12 team and you dominated them. Mike, it seems like our young D may have gotten a little better late this season. I think so. For the most part. They flashes, moments. The defense, in part, I'll give a little bit of an incomplete between the injuries and everything that you didn't have up front. And again, today you were shorthanded up front. Overall youth, the defense still has a long way to go. It's got to get a lot better in the front seven. And I know Jacob Rodriguez is up there and Ryan Curry but you got to be a lot better next year in order to have more games like this. And I'm not saying you're going to have a whole lot of 52-15s, but did it get better? Yeah, I think so. Kyle, definitely better than KK and Wells, certainly. Ben, we look like a football team today that had a desire to win from the get-go. Again, I'll couch it by saying you scored a touchdown on the first drive, okay? You had to settle for the field goal because of a bad call. So really, let's say it's only one field goal that you had to settle for. They scored a touchdown. The Tharp catch was a touchdown. You came out, set on go on an 11 a.m. start, not just an 11 a.m. start, but a holiday weekend, light crowd, not playing a heated rival or anything else. And you came out and you were set on go. And that's impressive to watch in that setting. Hey, what one thing we should probably, while I'm thinking about it, mention, how funky is it with the south end zone construction complete and everything? So we got the time change. And then we got, the late November 11 a.m. kickoff. How fascinating were the shadows at Jones Stadium today? That we had never seen that before like that at Jones Stadium. That you'd never seen the shadow effect come into play there in the south end zone. And then as the day went on, somebody pointed out, I don't know if it was Rob Rowe, one of our old buddies from the Raiderland show on radio, and now Rob's got his own show there on 97.3, and one third of the gambling gauchos, or how many they got. I lose track of how many gauchos are gambling over there, Rob. I think it was Rob who pointed out the shadow of the Double T scoreboard now on the field. It was wild. It was really interesting to look at. Ben, I assume Micah's bags have been packed. I don't know. I doubt it. If he wants to keep that Patrick Mahomes deal going, he'd probably want to stay. I mean, the dude was injured coming in. I think Texas Tech was guilty of allowing the hype machine to overhype him in the summer, going into the season with them knowing full well that the injury had delayed his development. And then he gets hurt again during the season and wasn't available. I think he'll be back. I think he'll be back until he's not here. Till he's not here, I have no reason to think he's going to leave. I think for the most part, it was the dude couldn't get on the field because he wasn't healthy and he just wasn't good enough. I mean, who was he going to? You going to take the dude off who just got 1,000 yards receiving? I don't think so. We'll see. I doubt he leaves, which means he'll announce on Monday he's leaving. Guess that's the way it always goes, right? CJ, although they don't look good at times, they do find a way to win. Defense lived up to the name, just good enough. And they were more than just good enough today. They were dominant today. They were the dominant, just good enough defense. Defensive line injuries seem to be higher than most years. Yeah, you had D-line injuries. You had outside linebacker injuries. You had all sorts of stuff, just everything that you don't want for a defense. I can find this, and I don't want you to take this wrong if you play defensive back. I can find me some guys that can play defensive back. They may not play very good, but for the most part, I can probably find some guys that we got guys put out there. There aren't a whole lot of dudes walking around that play defensive line and outside linebacker at the Big 12 level. And it's hard to get a lot of them on your team at once at any given time that are really good. And then if you start having injuries, it becomes even more so. I think it's harder to do that. I would say it's harder to fill out a D-line front seven than it is to fill out a five-man offensive line unit that you really like, which obviously in the offseason is going to be critical for Texas Tech to improve in the trenches, both sides of the ball. That's the next step. If you want to be that team that goes out and goes to the Big 12 title game, you must get exponentially better on both sides of the ball up front. End of story. That's all there is. Jeff, let's be good enough next year. We don't have to play TV games without announcers in the stadium. Also, Spencer Tillman talks too much. For those who don't know, the announcers were remote today. I like Spencer Tillman. You know? And somebody texted me today, said, we become spoiled that every game is on TV. Would you rather them not televise it if they can't have the announcers there? Or would you rather them televise it and have the announcers do it remotely? It's not ideal. If I'm the Big 12, I'm fighting hard. But if that's what gets you on Fox Sports 1 versus ESPN Plus, then you go, okay, we'll live with that. But to your point, if you're really good, they send the announcers to you. I guess I'm just old enough that you're never going to hear me griping that a game's on TV. I'm not going to be the one doing that. Let's talk about Taj Brooks, shall we? Let me hoist a beverage. To Taj Brooks, the only Red Raider to go over 1,500 yards twice in a career. Think about that. Let that settle in. He goes for $188 today and adds in another 50-some-odd yards of receiving. Obviously, he's already got the career rushing record at Texas Tech. But I thought today, one of those really aware moments, and you can do it when you're up 52-15. You can make this happen. I thought it was incredibly cool because it doesn't always work out this way. Doesn't always happen that you can do it. It's a lot easier to do it in basketball than in football. But you call the 30-second timeout there with 5:57 to go after he gets up to 188 yards, and you get Taj Brooks out. And you can hear Casey Cowan, if you listen to the highlights, being able to announce to the crowd, that he's leading. It's really rare to be able to get a football player that kind of moment. And if you don't think that matters to a team, that McGuire did that the coaches did that, if you don't think that matters, not just to Taj Brooks, but to everybody else on that team, on that sideline, that they care enough to do that, you're wrong. It does matter to those players that they were able to do that for Brooks. So what did he end up with? 5,126 all-purpose yards. Was it 45, 57? I can't remember. I think that's what I got written down in my brain. And I don't know, how long will this record stand? When Hanspart set the record in the mid-90s, mid to late 90s, I guess, mid-90s for the most part, you were in an era of lots of running, and you've gone through several great running backs in a 10, 15-year period, from Hadnot to James Gray, Bam Morris, Anthony Lynn in there, and then Byron Hanspard. That, at the time, you're not sitting there at the time thinking, wow, I wonder how long until somebody breaks Hanspard's record. But you're thinking, oh, they're still going to have running backs that are going to have opportunities to do this. Well, no, none of us could foresee what would happen in the 2000s, and not just Mike Leach at Texas Tech, but in general, this shift in passing in college football, that all of a sudden, a 1,000-yard rusher would be amazing. And then you would have somebody stay long enough, be good long enough, be healthy long enough to do that. Now, I mean, I'm not saying that Taj Brooks is a unicorn, but, it'll be broken in like 5 years. Again, you say these things, but who knows how long Taj Brooks can hold on to that record. And he'll probably say, just like Byron Hanspard did, I hope somebody comes along and breaks it someday. But all the way back, I just thought it was a really cool moment to get the curtain call for him, and get to take him out, and let the crowd appreciate that, let him appreciate that moment, because the dude has been a workhorse. I don't know that I've ever seen a harder runner in a Texas Tech uniform. He had a blend of different talents. We've talked at length about his patience and setting up blocks, that coaches should show that to young athletes and young running backs on how to work off blocks and set up blocks and go from there. And then, just enough speed. How fast is he? Well, fast enough when he needed to be. So we'll see how long it is before we see another of the likes of Taj Brooks. Barbara, Greg game, what bowl game do you think we'll play in? I have no idea. It's all over the place. There's so many moving parts right now with the bowl games, and even with the tie-ins and everything else. I'm not even going to speculate. Not even going to try to guess. Just wait and see. I mean, probably some of the usual suspects, I'm guessing, like maybe Alamo Bowl or Houston Bowl or something like that. I don't know. Well, they'll go somewhere. They'll play somebody. It'll be interesting to see if we get too many bowl teams this year, because we got too many bowls. Allen, Taj should get the weight room named after him for his loyalty. Now I can't remember whose name is on the weight room. You can do something in there with it, right? That's going to be the interesting question is Taj Brooks the greatest running back of all time? Because just because you maybe have the most yards, does that mean you're considered the greatest running back of all time? Jim Brown, greatest NFL running back of all time, didn't have the most yards. Where people, not myself, but where Tech fans and people in the coming years slot Taj Brooks will be most excellent, I think, to watch. Alan is on Facebook saying, give Tech a mid-level SEC bowl opponent or give us death. Yeah. Give us another SEC opponent so they can roll over and die and Tech can beat them. SEC. Good grief. 8 overtimes. 8 overtimes, Georgia. Vandy was up early. Couldn't hold on. Let's go back to that scoreboard. Tennessee did win at 36-23. South Carolina outlasted Clemson in that rivalry matchup. And then we are end of one now. Arizona State and Arizona 14-0. Arizona State. Arizona probably coach shopping when this thing is done. Arkansas and Missouri, snowstorm up there, 7-0 in the second early. Missouri out in front. End of first. SMU and Cal, 14-0 SMU. I didn't know quite how to feel about this SMU game today. I thought this was an egg spot. Right now it doesn't look like it. The Iron Bowl is just underway, scoreless. Who do you guys want, by the way, in some of these games, other than chaos and mayhem? Because it doesn't matter to Tech right now as far as the Big 12 goes. Baylor won earlier today. What did Baylor finish up at? Give me half a second. I when I'm looking at this, I can't see what you guys are saying on the chat feature, thanks to United Supermarkets. We'll get back to those in a second. Baylor 45-17 over Kansas. Kansas just good enough to beat some teams and screw some things up. Not good enough to do anything else. Then you got TCU Cincinnati. The Frogs trying to get to 8 wins, and they are laying 2.5 at Cincinnati. Is that game going to be televised on anything? ESPN Plus. Yeah, that's about right for that one. Farmageddon is tonight. BYU and Houston. That's at BYU. Otherwise, I think maybe the Cougs could do something crazy. And then Iowa State, Kansas State. What's that number? -2.5. Pardon me. -2.5. Iowa State favored. And I haven't seen the weather there. So there you go. Like the idea of a bowl in Texas. Yeah, it could probably happen. Auburn A&M, USC winning would be high comedy. I used to always root for Auburn in the Iron Bowl. I really don't have a dog in the fight, but I'm with Alan there. Please, let's go, and let's go. We're all Aggie fans tonight, right? Aren't we? And as much as one can be, you got to root for A&M. And then you get the chaos, and then, they'll come out with the playoff berths, and you'll have 8 SEC teams in there because it's a TV show. It's a TV show. It's put on by the SEC and the Big Ten, and you're lucky to get an invite if you're not in there. Tasty. All right, last chance to get a couple of comments in. You guys get in on the United Supermarkets chat feature. Your thoughts on the game, your thoughts on the season. We will be with you tomorrow, 5 Things We Know on a Sunday. And this holiday weekend feels like it's gone on for like a week. It's really wild how long this feels like it has gone on. So you guys can jump in on that, but we will be with you with our Sunday column, and then we're back at it hard on Monday. We got a lot of basketball to look at as the weekend goes on. We did mention it, Tech Men obviously rolling last night. The women get a victory yesterday. So men's basketball destroying an outmatched opponent from Northern Colorado the way they should. Alan informing us that it is 30 degrees and clear in Provo. Kickoff tonight. Lady Raiders had a good showing last night. Good defense. Spread the ball around offensively. Tough place to play. We mentioned it going there to St. Thomas. Brooks not the greatest back, but we'll give him credit for the best career with James Gray. Yeah, him and James Gray, so many, I think, similar characteristics. Brooks a little bit more physical than Gray was. Gray running behind a tremendous offensive line in 1989. And do that. And Alan pays attention. That is bingo. Up on the back wall next to Happy Santa, my cousin's daughter Reagan out for Thanksgiving supper. Ironically, on Thanksgiving night, and we got the Bluey Christmas coloring book going, and did some Christmas book coloring, and I got bingo there, bingo. I did not get Bluey. I got bingo, which I thought that was pretty fortunate. So I thought we'd put that up on the wall behind us this weekend, add a little Christmas fun to it. So thank you to Reagan for drawing me a little Bluey action there. It's bingo from the show Bluey, where they're all from Australia. And there you go. There's my Bluey knowledge for today. Good pickup, Alan. You that's wheelhouse viewing probably, or has been around your house maybe for a little while, more so than mine. It should be really disturbing if we were watching a lot of that around our house these days. All right, we're going to wrap it up. You guys are really good today. I hope everybody has a great rest of the holiday weekend. Thanks for jumping in on the Rewind. It's always fun. I want to thank Arctic Air. I want to thank United Supermarkets for being great sponsors of everything we do here in Raiderland. If you missed it, if you got in late, you want to hear the front part, go to theraiderland.com. You can check it out. It's always archived there. And I appreciate you guys for sharing the stuff we do and inviting folks into Raiderland. We'll see you tomorrow with our 5 Things We Know on a Sunday column at theraiderland.com.